Just now, there was a major escalation by Senate Democrats looking into the Trump family finances. Led by Senator Ron Wyden, who's chairman of the Finance Committee, Democrats are now demanding information from Jared Kushner's firm into his investors. This is big. This involves national security, corruption, foreign agent registration. This is wild. I'm going to give you guys all the details, and I got my hands on a letter that Senator Wyden sent to Jared Kushner's firm, making it official, which we'll go over. That's got a ton of juicy details. Hang with me. We'll go over all of it. If you guys recall, the Trump administration had a weird relationship with Saudi Arabia. That was the first nation that Trump visited when he became president, and then he shortly after signed a huge weapons deal with their country for hundreds of billions of dollars. And then there was the whole Jamal Khashoggi incident, this permanent resident of the United States who was murdered abroad by the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. At least that's what our intelligence community told the world. But Trump, he tried to play defense for MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, for some reason. So there was always some like weird, shady relationship between Trump and Saudi Arabia. And as soon as the Trump administration left the White House, within months, billions of dollars were invested into Jared Kushner's investment firm, and that always stunk of corruption. Democrats have demanded an investigation into this for years and years, and now finally we are starting to see some concrete action, some big steps in that direction. So I've got the letter that was sent from Senator Wyden's office to Jared Kushner's company. It's got all the details. Let's jump right into it. I write seeking information related to recent revelations that 99% of the investment for funds managed by Affinity Partners comes from foreign sources, primarily the governments of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. It is deeply concerning that several Middle Eastern governments are using funds managed by Affinity as a means to pay tens of millions of dollars in fees every year to former President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, creating significant conflicts of interest and potential counterintelligence risks. These arrangements also raise concerns that Affinity's exclusively foreign-funded private investment funds are being exploited as a loophole by Mr. Kushner and other foreign U.S. government officials as a means to avoid complying with the Foreign Agents Registration Act and other U.S. laws requiring U.S. persons to disclose payments from foreign governments. Well, that doesn't sound alarming or anything. Yikes! Private investment funds that take money exclusively from foreign politically exposed investors present heightened national security and other risks. From a national security perspective, the U.S. government has recently highlighted how the opacity and lightly regulated status of private funds can present risk to national security. For example, through the potential to disguise efforts to obtain sensitive national security information from portfolio companies and avoid notice to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States for investments with national security implications. I told you guys this dealt with national security. This is some serious stuff right here, man. These guys are not messing around. As you are aware, Affinity disclosed to U.S. regulators that 99% of the $3 billion worth of assets it manages comes from non-U.S. persons. While Affinity has not disclosed the identity of its foreign investors, recent reports revealed that several billion dollars in investments for Affinity's funds come from sovereign wealth funds owned by the governments of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. The largest source of funding for Affinity appears to be a $2 billion investment from the Saudi Public Investment Fund, hereafter Saudi PIF, made in June 2021, shortly after Mr. Kushner left the White House. The remaining $1 billion is split between sovereign wealth funds owned by the governments of the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. Terry Gou, a Taiwanese billionaire and politician who is the founder of the world's largest electronics manufacturer, and another investor whose identity has not been publicly reported. So that seems kind of shady to have 99% of your investments coming from just a couple of foreign countries, right? These activities generate tens of millions of dollars in advisory fees every year for Affinity and its principals, especially Mr. Kushner. Affinity uses a 2 and 20 fee structure for purported investment advisory services, even though many advisors with longer and more successful track records charge less. That seems shady as well. Through this compensation structure, Affinity charges investors annual management fees of 2% of assets under management and up to 20% of profits generated by the Affinity's investment activities. That means Affinity could receive at least $60 million every year in management fees from its exclusively foreign investor base. Moreover, Affinity reduces its overhead by requiring clients and investors to bear all costs and expenses related to its advisory activities. As the anchor investor, it appears the Saudi PIF alone has paid Mr. Kushner's firm at least $80 million in 2022 and 2023 combined. $40 million annually in management fees alone, in addition to expense reimbursements. As the founder and sole owner of Affinity, Kushner is the biggest beneficiary of the fees paid to Affinity by the Saudi PIF and other Gulf state clients. So if Jared Kushner's company is able to charge more in fees than other companies that have been around longer and have better track records, it makes you wonder what these investors are getting in return. The Saudi PIF's decision to invest $2 billion in Affinity so soon after Kushner's departure from the Trump White House raises concerns that the investment was a reward for official actions Kushner took to benefit the Saudi government, including preventing accountability for the Saudi government ordering the brutal murder of journalist and American citizen Jamal Khashoggi. Moreover, in the final 2 weeks of the Trump administration, Mr. Kushner traveled to Saudi Arabia purportedly on official business, even though any reasonable window for the meaningful foreign policy achievements would have closed with an upcoming inauguration of a new president. Yeah, that trip is definitely something we probably want to look into. For Jared Kushner to travel to Saudi Arabia on an official trip on behalf of the Trump administration with just days left in office, and then a couple months later, his investment firm gets billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, that does not seem on the up and up to me. Mr. Kushner's limited track record as an investor, including his non-existent experience in private equity or hedge funds, raises questions regarding the investment strategy behind the seeding investments and lucrative compensation that Affinity received from the Saudi PIF and other foreign wealth funds. Indeed, the investment committee of the Saudi PIF's board of directors objected due to the inexperience of Affinity's management, Affinity's operations being unsatisfactory in all aspects, and proposed management fees that seems excessive. According to the minutes of meeting held by the investment committee of the Saudi PIF in June 2021, the professional staff of the Saudi PIF opposed the investment on the basis that Kushner's lack of a record in private equity was too risky, describing the risk of the principal having limited experience in private equity and the inability for Affinity to provide any quantifiable investment track record for their founding team. However, the Saudi PIF's full board of directors, led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, overruled the investment committee and approved the investment in Affinity. If that doesn't make you think that there was some other benefit for these investors in Jared Kushner's company, I don't know what will. Saudi Arabia's own board that advises them about what to invest in said this is a terrible deal. They're charging you too much. The people in charge have no experience. It's a total bust. Don't do it. But Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman overruled them. So something shady as all heck is going on here. This series of events creates an appearance that Affinity's investors are motivated not by commercial interests of seeking a return on investment, but rather by strategic considerations of foreign nationals seeking to funnel money to U.S. individuals with personal connections to former President Trump. Additionally, the Saudi PIF's board of directors reportedly asked why Affinity had no institutional investors from the United States. In response, the investment committee staff wrote that the Affinity principal, Kushner, would like to avoid media attention at this time. Clearly, Kushner wanted to conceal from the American public the millions of dollars he would be paid by the Saudi government through the proposed investment in Affinity. Well, there it is. Obviously, these investors are getting something beyond just returns on their investments, and investing in Jared Kushner's company is a huge indicator of wanting to influence Donald Trump. And if you think Donald Trump has nothing to do with this deal and doesn't benefit from it, then I think you are completely missing the plot. Donald Trump has his fingerprints all over this deal, guaranteed. Affinity's total reliance on a small handful of foreign government investors raises other concerns due to the prevalence of other former U.S. government officials on Affinity's payroll. Affinity employs or has employed a number of former U.S. government officials, including Mr. Kushner, that recently served in key foreign policy and national security roles and had access to the highest levels of classified information and military secrets. Since 100% of Affinity's outside capital and streams of income comes from foreign sources, primarily sovereign wealth funds, I am concerned that Affinity's private investment funds are being exploited by former U.S. government officials as a loophole to receive compensation from foreign governments without disclosing these payments under FARA. I seem to remember Jared Kushner being denied a security clearance and Donald Trump overriding that. That was one of the most infuriating things that Donald Trump did early on in his presidency. And now we see why he probably did that. Jared Kushner had access to the crown jewels of intelligence, and Lord knows what they've shared with the Saudis for these investment deals. Typically, FARA requires individuals working on behalf of foreign entities in the United States to register with the Department of Justice and to disclose their relationship, activities, receipts, and disbursements in support of their activities. However, Affinity's funds demonstrate how foreign actors can put up all of the money for a private investment fund, pay politically exposed U.S. persons for investment advisory services, and exploit long-standing disclosure exemptions afforded to private investment funds. There has long been concern from Congress that foreign actors, including foreign governments, have been exploiting the lack of reporting requirements for private funds as a means to launder money, influence the U.S. political system, and engage in other illicit financial activity. So obviously this is even bigger than just Jared Kushner, which I appreciate the Senate Democrats pointing out, because people could say, well, this is just a witch hunt. You're just obsessed. You have Donald Trump derangement syndrome, and you guys just want to take down anybody associated with Trump. Well, as Senator Wyden, chairman of the Finance Committee, pointed out in the letter here, this seems to be a trend that people are using these private funds to circumvent rules and influence U.S. policy. So as you can see, this is quite alarming, this investment fund that Jared Kushner has. And once again, this is bigger than just the Trumps, but the Trumps, as usual, are the most egregious actors, and who knows what kind of shady things they're up to with this investment firm. But I think you and I and the American people deserve to know if there are foreign actors influencing U.S. policy through these funds, and Americans are able to circumvent the rules and not have to comply with our existing laws. That is something I want looked at. So I am thrilled with the Senate Democrats led by Ron Wyden, again, chairman of the Finance Committee, launching this letter, opening up this investigation into Jared Kushner and his firm. Let's get to the bottom of this, and hopefully we can even escalate things further when we take over the House in January of next year.